Well, the government has started the process of consulting all government departments in what is an internal exercise in order to assess the consequences of departure from the European Union and to identify opportunities which may come our way at the same time. Because you have to understand that there is a deal which will be negotiated between the UK and the EU, which will set the terms of the future relationship. So membership of the EU presumably will end at one point, and the new deal will come into effect. Now, we don't know what that will entail at this moment in time, but what we do know is that we need to assess internally where it is that the government is. So every single government department, the Chief Minister has written to all ministers, so each of them will assess within their own departments what the potential impact of leaving the European Union will be. So for example, in health, what will happen to the health card, the use of the EU health card, which people use now when they need medical treatment in other parts of the European Union. What will happen to the EU format identity card, to documents which we issue now, which are EU format documents. So there is a whole range of internal work that the government needs to do as a prelude to then negotiating and sitting down with the United Kingdom and providing an input, which is what the UK has requested, into their own negotiating process and into their own internal mechanisms for discussion. So it will be quite a large exercise. I mean, the Chief Minister has asked ministers to come back by the end of August with a summary, going through different departments and spelling out what the impact is going to be. People need to bear in mind that this is not going to be instant. The United Kingdom has already said that the giving an Article 50 notice to the EU is something which is not going to happen immediately. And we know from once that notice is given, there is then 2 years in which to negotiate a deal, and then there is a possibility for that period to be extended. Until that happens, we remain as we are. But we do need to prepare and to make plans for what the future might bring, and then that is the exercise that the government is engaged in at the moment.
How will members of the public also be involved in this consultation?
Well, there are several facets to this. One of them is obviously the internal government administration carrying out an exercise of its own, which is what we've set in motion already. Another one will be an element of public consultation. There will also be consultation with the business organizations to see how the business community might be impacted by different issues, by, for example, the question of access to the single market, by the question of freedom of movement through the border. So it's important to assess what the business community thinks as well. Bear in mind that at the very beginning, as soon as the referendum result was known, we already contacted with the business organizations, with representatives of the gaming industry, and with other financial services industry as well. So the government has had preliminary contact already. We now want to put that also on a more formal footing, and an announcement will be made in the next few weeks as to what exactly it is that will happen. Separately from that, so we have the financial and the business, we have the government doing its own thing, we have the public in terms of the general public and their consultation. We also have a legal group which is working on the different aspects, the different final solutions that could emerge for Gibraltar in terms of our status within the European Union. We've said that we're looking at all the possible options. You know, we've had meetings with the government of Scotland, we're working with them as well. So we have a legal team independently working on all of those different issues as well. And quite apart from that, as we've engaged with the opposition, and we're looking at a mechanism which would allow formal cooperation between the government and the opposition to take place on this very important matter as well. So there is quite a broad area of consultation taking place involving many different parts of the community.
Can you explain the procedure by which this exercise is being carried out?
The internal government consultation consists essentially of a letter detailing several requests that the Chief Minister has sent out to all ministers, who in turn will send them on to heads of department, to agencies and authorities for which they are responsible. The response of that is being collated, and we've had some responses already from the very sort of quick ones. It is being collated in the form of a spreadsheet. So an Excel spreadsheet will show what it is, the department, what the issue might be, how the issue can be resolved, or indeed what new opportunities might lie from actually not belonging to the European Union. But bear in mind what I said at the beginning, that much of this depends on the final relationship that the UK and the EU negotiate, in which Gibraltar, we already know, is going to be fully involved. Until we know what that final relationship is going to be, it's very difficult to know whether we're going to be better off in this situation or worse off in that situation. What people need to understand is that now we remain as we are, that nothing is going to change until that final deal comes into place a number of years into the future. But that in the meantime, what the government is doing is collating all the information necessary from the public sector, from the private sector as well, and we hope to do an element of that consultation also in conjunction with the opposition once we agree on the structure which will take the cooperation between us forward.